A reading from the first letter of St. John. Beloved, see what love the Father has bestowed on us, that we may be called the children of God. Yet so we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we shall be has not yet been revealed. We do know that when it is revealed, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. No matter how many times I read this passage and desired for literally any other part of this reading to stick out to me, I kept coming back to this line. And though it's not terribly important to point this out, when printed in a lectionary, these two lines are dead center, 4 lines above, 4 lines below, which I think might be the reason why my eye continued to be drawn to this. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Now, I don't know about you, but something about this verse strikes me as a bit odd. I'm always wanting to preach Jesus and to make Him known to the world. So why is the Apostle John telling me that I should be concerned about the world knowing who I am? Am I crazy to think that I want to make Jesus known to the world and not myself? But then it struck me, who is the world? Often in my mind, I know I get caught up in an us versus them type of mentality. I'm not part of the world. But when I pause, I realize that you and I, are part of this world. And thus, we can reread this verse in a very different light. That the reason that you and I do not know each other, and at times ourselves, is that we did not know Him. So it raises a question that I believe St. John helps us to answer in this passage. That if we have difficulties knowing each other, then who are we? And I think that the apostle provides a threefold answer. First of all, we're children of God. And what does that really mean? And my mind's drawn to a very human example. When I go home to visit my parents in Las Vegas, I often meet a lot of random strangers to me, but they're my parents' friends. And whether they say it or I see it in their eyes, there is this profound statement that they look at me and they say, "You're Ed and Maria's son." And because of that, I don't know these people at all. But for some reason, I'm vouched for within their company. And though I'm a stranger in their home, for some reason I belong there because of the love that my parents shared with them. And I take a moment and I can relish in the resemblance that I have to my parents because I get to meet these random strangers and share in love with them, all because I'm their child. And this is a very earthly example, but our childhood before God is infinitely greater than even that. The second answer that I think the apostle gives is that we are known. And being known is the crux of every relationship that we have in this world. When Brother John Mark Falkenheim came a couple of months ago for a workshop on celibacy, he told us that he believes that the vast majority of dissatisfaction in marriage comes from this idea of not being known. That one spouse perceives in another spouse this statement of, they should know me by now. We share our lives and everything, yet they should know that this bothers me and this hurts me. So why do they continue doing it? And this is true of every relationship that we have, this desire to be known. And when we are known, incredible things can happen. I'm reminded of, during my second year of Focus, I brought all of these sorority and fraternity students on a service trip to Denver to work with Christ in the city. And often a lot of the work with Christ in the city is just walking around on the streets talking with people who live on the streets and sharing in life with them. But one of the more programmy type of things that they do is every Wednesday they have a lunch at the park where they feed up to 200 to 300 people every week. And as we were there, I was standing in line talking to people, but I noticed that there is this couple, and the man in the couple was getting very angry, shouting at another man across the line from him. This other man was on his phone saying, "If you don't back away, I'm going to call the police." So I was like, the situation might erupt. We'll see what happens. But it continued to get louder and escalating, more profanities being shared back and forth. And one of my male students and one of my female students, they were walking on the line, and they noticed the man on the phone was standing behind them. And the male student turned to the female student and said, "If this couple breaks through the line, we need to sprint as fast as we can." So, inevitably, the couple did break through the line, and my male student did run for his life. And the female student tried to run for her life, but the man on the phone grabbed her to use her as a human shield as the man who broke through pulled out what looked like a knife. Now, me being the organizer of this trip, I was freaking out because I did not want to explain how a student got stabbed on my mission trip. But something profound happened. All of a sudden, a man broke out of the line and pulled this woman out from the situation. And while she was crying uncontrollably, rightfully so, he told her, "I don't think you remember me, but a couple of days ago, I was standing on the corner, and you came over, you smiled at me, you asked me my name, and you made me feel known. And when I saw you in that situation, I knew that no man should lay his hands on a woman like that, especially a woman as nice as you." He's known. And because of that, he's willing to jump into a situation, risking his own life to save someone who he barely knows, someone he met 3 days ago, all because he felt known. Which brings me to my last and most important part of this answer, that we are loved. And it's really as simple as that we are loved. We're loved by our families, we're loved by our friends, we're loved by people who hold us in prayer. But most importantly, we're loved by Him, by Jesus Christ, God incarnate. Jesus Christ, who calls us no longer servants, but friends. But even beyond that, His own brothers and sisters. Jesus Christ, who reminds us that our Heavenly Father knows every flower in the field, every hair on our head, every sheep in His flock. And that the Father knows us infinitely more than we can possibly fathom. The same Jesus Christ who loved us so much that He died on a cross to free us from the bonds of death, to save us from sin. That in our brokenness, in our neediness, in our profound dorkiness before God, that we are reminded that we're worth dying for. And why does Jesus show this to us? It's simple. Jesus shows this to us so that we can more fully realize that God, with every fiber of His being, desires us to be united to Him. That God desires us to be so intimately and inseparably united to Him that our eyes may be opened and that we may see ourselves as God truly sees us, as beloved.